Howdy, everybody. Welcome again to another episode. Kind of in line with my last post. Um, as I've sorted through much of the material again for my Anomalous America series, I naturally had to leave out a large amount of material, that was, south of the border, so to say. But it's quite incredible the quality and quantity of material concerning Mexico in Central America. And I came across this one when I was doing the Babel episode and figured it would be a part of the series. But after reading it a few times and going back through some of my other posts, I decided this is one I couldn't get off my mind. So I just wanted to record this episode really quick and get it out there. As always, thanks for being here. We're going to relate some older material and kind of cross some bridges into America. And in further episodes, we're going to get into the six-fingered six-toe race. What, how the how this connects with Mexico, some of the subterranean worlds discovered, so on and so forth. But this one just correlated so perfectly with the Tower of Babel material. I just wanted this to be next, as you'll see here. So, we're in Southport, Racine County, Wisconsin territory, July 28th, 1840. It's just such a sweet spot in the narrative and the timelines. The material between, I'd say, the late 1700s into the late 1830s, early 1840s is very scant. And people have heard me mention this before, but it seems very much like that was kind of a period of redistribution, rebuilding, kind of the orphan train narrative and getting everything back up and running again. But yeah, so let's jump right into this. This is one of those um, papers that it's a great example of when you find something worth reading, there's often going to be one or two other articles in this in this same piece of literature that's worth reading, and this is certainly one of them. It talks about Egypt in the 1840s and the transfer of power under Muhammad Ali, and kind of some of the interesting things that were going on warfare wise. Um, how Egypt was becoming a central power in the region, and some of the people had problems with it. It goes on to talk about some of the odd interplays between noblemen, lords, dynasties, and religion. Um, it talks about the latest exploration of the Antarctic continent, discovery of the Antarctic continent. Again, why I say so many times that late 1830s, early 1840s, it's almost like we're just getting out of our um, quarantine, so to say, and re-exploring the realm after since kind of wiping away the dust and dirt and grime and seeing what's left. But yeah, but we're not here for that. We're here for Antiquities of America. We're going to go ahead and just zoom down in here. Again, this is 1840 Wisconsin territory. Let's get right into it. I'm going to get my face out of the way. Antiquities of America. We learn from the New York Express that Mr. Stevens, U.S. charged to Guatemala, and Mr. Catherwood of the Panorama have met with most encouraging success at the outset of their researches for antiquities in Central America. At Quiragua, they made the following discoveries. One statue, 10 feet high, lying on the ground. One ditto, 10.5 feet high, lying upon the ground, face looking toward the heavens. One ditto, 26 feet high, inclining, similar to the steeple or the Tower of Pisa. That's quite interesting. Was it a wave? Was it a earthquake? Hmm. I'm sure some of you are familiar with some of those old um, kind of Renaissance drawings of comets and the sky phenomenon and the ground kind of becoming plastic and liquid in a sense, and buildings sinking and leaning over, and not necessarily an earthquake, but maybe something along those lines. The kind of liquefaction, possible mud flood thing. But I just love how they describe that there. Some on the ground, one standing at an angle. A monument 23 feet high, perpendicular in the form of an obelisk, full of hieroglyphics, with a human statue cut upon its top, and has some figures in its hands. Another statue 9 feet high, representing a woman. Or was I'm sorry. One other statue 19 feet high, representing on one side the figure of a woman, on the other a man in good preservation. Another, the head of a giant, 6 feet in diameter. Excuse me. Is this an Olmec head? I don't know. Two altars, most elegantly sculptured. One obelisk, 12 feet in height. Four other monuments in distinct places, one of which is of a circular form and upon a small eminence formed of stones, apparently brought from the river. In the center between these four monuments, there is a huge round stone, which is wholly covered with hieroglyphics and inscriptions. Neath the stone is two human heads, covered nearly with vegetation, upon which the stone rests. The above monuments are found about 3,000 feet from the river Montagua. The time of Messrs. Catherwood and Stevens being short, they were unable to make more discoveries in that place, but they are satisfied that these monuments, and etc., can be removed and taken to the U.S. of America, which is their intention. While those of Palenque are so far in the interior, it would be impossible to remove them. We also learn that the human figures and the ornaments which appear about them are all similar to those at Palenque. In fact, this we consider only a prelude to what we shall expect from these distinguished, preserving, and scientific travelers. We learn these gentlemen will continue their journey, and after their visit to Palenque will proceed to Mexico. The New York Star offers the following comments upon the above facts. The people of this country must be prepared for extraordinary developments in researches throughout Central America, Peru, and Mexico. We must, as a nation, relinquish our unbelieving propensities, our uniform practice of doubting everything which we cannot exactly comprehend, and believing all things to be a hoax or a humbug, accepting men or a silver dollar, and prepare ourselves by a proper study and discipline of mind to know and to believe that this new world, so called, the discovery of a few centuries, was settled by the descendants of Peleg, and that the statues above described, together with the altars and obelisks, the temples at Palenque, the hieroglyphics, the aqueducts, viaducts, and military highways, are from the same people who built Tyre, Babylon, the Tower, the pyramids, and Carthage. The Phoenicians, who, driven down the Mediterranean by Joshua, after they had circumnavigated Africa, visited Britain and the Western Islands, found themselves nearly 4,000 years ago in the Gulf of Mexico, and there made their settlements. Now, in regards to this, I kind of alluded to some of these misrepresentations of migrations westward from the east or from the Med. But as I stated in the previous episode of this, The Mayans Built the Tower of Babel, the author clearly states that it seems very much likely that these were the original Americans. These kind of priest kings again, right? These druids and Brahmins, like all of these kind of priest classes, although distinct in their own ways, do go back to a very similar root. Yeah, in the Finnish Phoenician language again being so playing such an important role in post Ice Age, post Babel, whatever you want to call it, Reconstruction period, right? As far as reestablishing language and communication, and how although there is holes in the narrative, I would say thanks to um, what happened to the invasion of Mexico in the 1400s, and what was taken and destroyed and rewritten, we're given this kind of puzzle that we're forcing to reconstruct. There's a lot of really good researchers out there that have formulated a lot of amazing opinions towards kind of the Joshua narrative and the Moses and many of the biblical stories taking place in the Americas, and I strongly agree with that. um you know Again, as I stated, whether or not you wholeheartedly uh believe in the biblical story or historical references of the biblical stories, that's up to you to determine, and I don't blame you one bit. Obviously, a lot of that has been revised, but again, why I love some of these older articles is kind of correlating concepts and ideas that I've worked over the last 10, 15 years towards conclusions that coalesce quite nicely with some of these older researchers, and as well as other content creators out there. Cootie Mayo and UBTV and Dr. Longo, so many others. But again, um, yeah, how they found themselves nearly 4,000 years ago in the Gulf of Mexico and there made their settlements. I'll stop rambling. We'll get finish this article off and then we'll hop into another. Spread over the peninsula to the Pacific Ocean and to Cape Horn. Let our people be prepared for something yet more startling. The downfall of the powerful people who built those cities. Let them be prepared to believe that 1,500 years after the Phoenicians had settled in America, the 9.5 tribes of Israel, after the capture of Samira, took their departure from an unknown country. Is it unknown? Or is that kind of, again, what I was just kind of hinting at in my previous rant? And after an unknown country, and after taking in their train, okay, so after taking in their train, the Tartars and the Chinese, disposed to follow, crossed at the Bering Straits and passed down on the Pacific side until they reached the Isthmus of Darien, and there came suddenly upon the Canaanites and destroyed them a second time, and in the new world, and with them destroyed their temples and their pagan altars, as they were ordered to do by the Almighty wherever they found them. So again, as I've kind of made these correlations previously throughout all of my work and posts and videos, I talk quite endlessly about who the Chinese were. We correlated that kind of with the idea of the Z and the Olmec peoples, right? And who are the Tartars, and how that's become this kind of oblique um, kind of cover term for quite a distinction of people, right? People outside of Rome, East and West. and that they, although I do believe there was some obvious migrations between the Bering Straits, where I do think that in this time period we're dealing with a lower sea level. Again, I mentioned the bog bodies of the Gulf several times, but these mummified redheads, and we'll get into further in the series. We'll talk about one of the largest collections of mummies ever found. It was found in Mexico, 2,000 or more, correlating quite nicely again to some of the articles from the Mississippi Valley, right? I believe it was Kentucky where they found thousands and thousands of mummies underground. And because they were in wartime and they were harvesting elements from under the earth, saltpeter and other things for ammunition and weapons and explosives, that they were just burning thousands of mummies. And the story is a bit different here, but as we get into some of the discoveries in later episodes, we'll show a bit of that. But again, who are the Tartars? Who are the Chinese? Right? How do they relate to these biblical stories? And that we talked about, Canada, the Canaanites, and the Phoenicians, and this idea again here, as he mentioned above. I'm going to read it one more time, okay? The discovery of a few centuries. Okay, so sorry, I'm going to. And prepare ourselves by a proper study and discipline of mind to know and to believe that this new world, so called, important because it's not the new world, the discovery of a few centuries was settled by the descendants of Peleg, and that the statues above described, together with the altars and obelisks, the temples of Palenque, the hieroglyphics, the aqueducts, viaducts, and military highways are from the same people who built Tyre, Babylon, the Tower, the pyramids in Carthage, the Phoenicians. Which is an important point to make there. Again, correlating it with my last episode from the Tower of Babel built by the Mayans. And who are the Mayans? I formulated that kind of concept of the Olmec and the Z and the Chinese and the first dynasty of the Chinese and their quite interesting overlays with the Americas. And we're going to show some of that in not only hieroglyphic proofs but other proofs. Some things found quite a few stories below ground here in the Yucatan as well as Central America. Okay, so they're right. We're talking about the Canaanites running into these people again and how they were forced to destroy them. So back to the article. Let our people know that the red men, okay, the red ochre men, right? This ties in with the Vinland and the Thule. Again, the Thule weren't red men, but their alliance and the naming of such and that area they occupied and the Micmac correlations, right? The Iroquois correlations, the Cherokee were discussed quite openly being one of the lost tribes as their uh, Hebrew overlays are quite endless in their language as well as some of their cultural mythos and creation stories are bear quite a distinct correlation to the Bible. Let our people know that the red men spread over this continent are the descendants of what was called the lost tribes, who bear at this day the proofs in their religion, language, and ceremonies of their early origin. So far, all is conjecture, but these discoveries will, in time, ripen into fixed and positive evidence. This we know that 400 years ago, Columbus discovered the southern portion of this continent inhabited by a mild and peaceable race of Indians, a hospitable, inoffensive people, amiable and kind, who were rich and were soon destroyed in the name of religion. The more savage tribes to the north have not been reached even to this day. It is absurd for a moment to cherish the belief that the original Mexicans and Peruvians were the architects of those splendid temples, obelisks, and pyramids, and that their chisels formed those gigantic statues just discovered. This ties nicely in again to the Queen Mu story, which we're going to go back to and actually dive into the book and show correlations to all of these kind of biblical overlays here. But yeah, we're dealing with cultures coming in and building, starting anew on a buried civilization. This is something I've covered quite endlessly in almost all of my shows. All that we have of Peruvian fine arts, such as skeletons of human figures, are in the poorest imaginable taste and out of all proportion in dimensions and drawing. The chart in Delafield's work and all of the drawings prove this. Indeed, their traditions have it that those stone ruins of exact proportions, caps, pillars, bases, bas reliefs, metopes, and triglyphs, such as we see this day at the Parthenon at Athens, were done by wandering masons, of whom they know nothing, who built them, who raised the obelisks, who sculptured the statues. The hieroglyphics will tell the story that this is not the new world. This is not the new world. We take it for granted now that commissions will soon be issued by the French and other European governments to explore those countries. Savans will soon be abroad. The yachts of the wealthy will soon be directed towards the Gulf of Mexico. And Thebes and Memphis will, for a time, cease to attract the traveler and the tourist. We rejoice, however, that the United States will the merit be ascribed of setting on foot these discoveries. They are only the beginning, the mere dawn of those great events which soon are to burst upon us with wonderful light. Man, I don't know about you, but obviously I've clipped this one years and years ago, but reading it a few times is just quite a special article again. Again, Southport, Racine County, Wisconsin Territory, July 28th, 1840. And I wanted to highlight again who built them, who raised them. The hieroglyphics will tell a story. This is not the New World, right? Okay. And they're talking about they were the work of the wandering Masons. Now, in Anomalous America, we get into Colorado, Arizona, and um, New Mexico having some of the oldest, quote, square and compass Masonic relics found anywhere in the world. And the obvious correlation to this kind of, again, biblical narrative, how that overlays with the destruction of America and these vanished races. And when we get into the Queen Moo book, we'll highlight a lot more of that in detail. But to finish this episode off, we're gonna hop into an older post of mine. Um, this is from the late 1800s. Okay, and it's called the Lost Tribe of Israel, a peculiar race of people living underground in Central America. Cole J. C. Tucker, former United States minister at Martinique, relates a strange story of a race of people living in an underground city in Central America. Cole Tucker, some time ago, received information about a race who live in cities cut out of the rocks in the mountains in Central America, in an out of the way place, very difficult to reach, in which no stranger had visited before him and returned alive. He decided to investigate. After reaching a certain point, Cole Tucker had to travel 800 miles through wild jungles carrying his provisions on a pack mule and enduring many hardships on the way. As he neared the hidden city, his every moment was watched and reported to the high priest of the tribe dwelling there, but no harm was offered him. When he shot a pair of lions in the jungle, which had been killing the natives, he did an act that turned out to be the very thing that gave him their friendship and protection. He was welcomed by the high priest, who spoke good English, and was shown through their wonderful city, hewn out of solid granite rocks in the mountainside. To the uninitiated, the surface of the mountain gave no clue to the city concealed within it. It was entered by secret passages, cunningly concealed by nature's handiwork, and which led to large, commodious rooms, handsomely furnished, mostly in old mahogany. Passages led to hundreds of other rooms, and to a large hall in which the strange people held meetings, while smaller openings for ventilation went upward. Ending among the rocks and jungles above, so arranged that rain could not enter. The tradition among these curious people was that they originally came from a country far away, and that their mission was to outwit their enemies, which, in the beginning, pursued them. At all entrances there were inside rooms from which, at a moment's notice, deadly gases could be let loose upon any hostile invaders who might enter, and which would kill them instantly, while by sliding doors of stone the gas would be kept from entering the city. The light of the sun, moon, or stars never enters their underground city except by certain openings by which they study the mysteries of the night sky. But they use electricity for lighting purposes, a science they have learned by keeping in touch with the outer world through their young men. The colonel says he was attendant at their meetings and was surprised to find they were going through the Masonic rituals, which he, being a Mason of high degree, understood. This was an inheritance of theirs from their ancestors of the unknown past. Cole Tucker has written many chapters about these people and their city. He has done so because he wishes to preserve the knowledge. He freely shows them to his friends and has as yet made no effort to publish them. The proprietor of a well known Eastern magazine, who visited the city of Mexico and who was given the privilege of reading the manuscripts with the provision that he would not publish their contents, offered Cole Tucker first 5,000 and then double that amount if the colonel will pilot him to the city in the rocks, and he may yet do so. Cole Tucker believes that these people are a part of the lost tribe of Israel. He has many old parchments they gave him, which he has been unable to get anyone to decipher for him, but which he hopes to have read by some one of the great scholars of the world, when the mysteries they contain in their time stained hieroglyphics will be made plain, thus revealing to the world perhaps the strangest story that ever linked the dim past to the living present. Whew, man. I like that one a lot. And I hope you see why that one was, you know, really important for me to share. And whew, yeah. But more importantly, as always, thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying these. Look forward to reading your comments. And yeah, in the next episode, we'll talk about some of the discoveries, a little more detail. Obviously, this kind of talked about the state that the temple complex was in, which looks like some large cataclysm just kind of destroyed the place. But we're gonna get into more of what they're finding below ground, correlating some of those things with the Americas. The American states, the U.S. states, what they're finding there. We're going to talk about the six finger, six toe people of this region and what that kind of correlates to, at least from some mythical stories. And yeah, so again, thanks for being here. Love you guys. Have a wonderful day.